Of the 6 teams that signed up to the 37th America's Cup cycle, 4 had sailed in the previous event in Auckland. Be they the challengers or the defender, 4 teams that already knew how hard the task was going to be. 4 teams who remembered how difficult an AC75 was to get to grips with. 4 teams that came away from the 36th America's Cup with pages of notes on how they'd do things differently next time around. The new AC75 class had clearly broken new ground at the leading edge of the sport, which meant that 4 teams were already a long way ahead. Anyone coming into the 37th Cup afresh would need to be playing a big game of catch-up. Alinghi Red Bull Racing are one of 2 teams that were new to this Cup cycle. They're a team with a young, talented crew. But Alinghi also has a pool of very experienced team members in the background who have won the Cup twice before. Nevertheless, everyone in the Swiss team knew that catching up would be hard. And as design coordinator Alfonso Caro explained, the first stages were even harder than anyone had expected.
It was very painful, yeah.
Was it?
Yes, it was very painful. But
why do you say painful?
it was painful because, I mean, most of us were coming from other Cups teams, and we ended the last campaign sailing at a level, and then
you were at American Magic last time, yeah.
With American Magic, and then we started sailing out here, and new boats. We had to Boat Zero came as a shell, so we had to redesign systems and make sure everything was new. Yeah, but Boat Zero was foils and the shell and the sail and the mast, but all the systems, which is a big deal in the America's Cup, we started from scratch, and we just need to bring all the team to a level. And the first months were pretty long and pretty painful, but I think as a team it was good. It sort of helped to create the culture of the team and the resilience on the team, and we kept going until you start making little breakthroughs, and then you start learning how to sail the boat a bit better. And by the time we decommissioned Boat Zero, I think we were sailing quite well. So
that's really interesting. I mean, the way you describe it makes me wonder if actually it was a really good way to do it, because it presented the end game right up front. It's like, this is what you've got to be able to do.
Yes.
And there's a shock to the system for everybody.
Yeah, especially having all the other teams, already doing laps and doing really, tricky maneuvers, and we were basically learning how to take off. That's really the reality of where we were not so long ago. So our learning curve was pretty vertical, in all respects, not only for the sailing part, but for the broader team. And also had to deal with the waves again. Yeah. Just how to manage the boat in the waves. It took a bit of time to get used to that.
But knowing where you need to get to is one thing. Creating and executing a plan requires stepping up to another level.
First, the objective now is to win the America's Cup in Barcelona, and Barcelona has been a very special venue. And we moved here in June 2022, and we got going. We got the Boat Zero, and we started discovering that it's not the usual venue. It's always different. Apart from the typical, everyone knows that the sea state is very is larger than what we had in the previous cups, but also the wind. It's very shifty and it's gusty. It's a difficult venue. So with that, we had to design a boat to be able to cope with that and be fast in that sort of conditions. Because you can also have the perfect days. You can have the flat water and the typical nice days, and you cannot be slow in those conditions as well. So I think what we try to achieve, and hopefully we have achieved, is a good mix where the boat is versatile enough to cope with the flat water, perfect days, but also with the days where it gets really, really nasty. Because also the waves, you can have the long swell, but you can have the short chop and 1 meter or 2.5 meter waves. So it's a really tricky venue. So when designing the hull shape, the appendages, the sail shapes, the control systems, to be able to be really dynamic when you work on the logic. So there's all these aspects which you need to be able to adapt your boat to the condition. It's like a Formula One car. You have all these tracks which are all different. Well, here that's what we have. We have a wide variety of tracks, and we need to be agile enough to change the configuration of the boat within the rule. So I think it was good for us to only have to design one boat, be here in Barcelona, concentrating solely on the 75. I think that was really important.
When the new boat was revealed, it was clear that the team was not only confident, but keen to push the design hard. Now it was time to put theory into practice.
Given how much focus there is nowadays on very sophisticated modern design and analysis, computer software and tools, how much does hours on the water still count?
They count a lot. I mean, they count a lot because all the tool validation, especially with the waves. So we had to come up with a wave model, which didn't exist before because Auckland or Bermuda or San Francisco, really the waves was not a factor in our design. So very quickly we had to incorporate waves into our design tools, and then you need to start from scratch or your tool validation. And it's very different what happens with flat water, with with Hallen plating and all the things which we were quite well known after Auckland. We had all the tools perfectly calibrated for that. Now you need to restart and relearn. So there was a lot of time we spent just making sure our simulator tools were able to understand what happens with the waves. So the hours were really valuable because data is never enough. But also for bringing a new team up to speed, not only the sailing team but also the shore operations, the broader team, having a build facility that has to be agile enough to build components at the rhythm that's needed for America's Cup. So really being very intensive and very aggressive, let's say, on our sailing schedule. I think we probably have been the one that sailed the most in the 75 and the 40 probably even. So I think this is another thing which we had to do because we started from a very, our starting point was very low and you need to catch up with very, very good teams. And let's see where we are right now.
Playing catch-up was top of the list for sailing team manager Rodney O'Dern.
The whole process of having Boat Zero has been great for us. I mean, we really got pretty much an empty shell from Team New Zealand, so it was a good process just to build and design systems and get the thing sailing, learn to sail. And we're here during the summer and during race time, so it's been good.
Was that a steeper curve than you expected? The learning how to sail the boat?
Yeah, I think so. And then probably in hindsight that it wasn't an easy boat to learn to sail either. I think they got more refined. It was the first of the AC75s, and so it was not as refined as the boats that ended up racing. We understood that there were waves here, and then we were the first to experience it. We were lucky enough that the venue was announced very close to the time where we needed to decide where we would base ourselves until the Cup came around. So it was perfect timing, the announcement of the venue. So we ended up here pretty early, experienced the sea state. It can be, it's pretty variable, both sea state compared to the wind direction, so it can be off axis, of course, as everyone's noted. So it's played an influence, but then once again the designs had to be in a year ago for a lot of the bigger components, so you had to make some pretty quick decisions already based on historical data as well as what we experienced in the summer last year.
So how much does that experience benefit them, and how varied could the conditions be once racing gets underway?
Typically still in the summer weeks or months, you have your typical sea breeze, which is a southwest, and you have your chop, and then as the water temperature as well is a bit hotter than usual. That was this last summer, so that means that the sea breeze develops in a different way than the statistics. But in theory, you have your sea breeze, and in the summer, and then it starts to get a bit lighter, and but then you have the Tramontana, which is also the Mistral, and that pushes a lot of waves from the east, and then you have also the very strong westerlies as well. So September, October could be pretty much anything, because if any of these fronts come close, we have wind and you have waves. I think everyone has been working towards the same sort of objectives. If you think what sort of advantage we could have compared to the competitors, it's just arriving early to Barcelona. We have the luxury to not have a base at the sea. We were working in Switzerland when Barcelona was announced, and very quickly, I think a couple of months later, we were all the team assembled here and starting to sail Boat Zero. So we do know the conditions quite well, and we managed to have a bit of that input to design the boat. So I hope that makes a difference at the end.
Even given the wide variety of design solutions that we've already seen across the fleet, there'll be few, if any, who would bet against being on location. Because Hours on the Water at the venue is not just a very effective way of playing catch-up, it's a great way of getting your nose ahead too.
A sustainable future. Yanmar.